45 years, 0 name changes, new offices, more staff, improved technology to better serve you. Education, services, investments. Think real estate, think Marshall Reddick. Brokerage, property management, private lending, creating financial independence through real estate since 1979.
Thank you all so much for taking the time out of your Tuesdays to hang out with Natasha and I to go over this really exciting topic, and that will be Clarksville, Tennessee, one of the fastest growing cities to watch in 2025. We're really going to be going through the ins and outs here, so we're super excited to have you on, and we'll get right started here. So my name is Tasso, and I'm here today with Natasha. A little bit about myself. I am a licensed realtor and have been for about 6 years now. Love what I do, and it really doesn't feel like work at this point. It really feels like I enjoy communicating with clients every day, talking to everybody in the office. It's been fantastic. I got my bachelor's of business administration from Cal State University, Long Beach. I have 2 years of direct property management experience where I spent time really doing all things property management with Marshall Reddick, speaking with tenants, coordinating maintenance, processing rent collections, just the whole 9 yards to really know the ins and outs of our property management department. I am a Husky owner, a student pilot, and I love to play basketball. I've completed real estate transactions in California, Texas, Tennessee, and Kentucky, and I'm an investor here at our Marshall Reddick Mortgage Fund, and we'll touch on that just a little bit in the next slide. So the topics we're going to be going over today, we're going to be talking all things Clarksville. We're going to be going over the metro. We're going to be going over why Clarksville is gaining attention, statistical growth. We're going to be going over the cost of living, major employers, and we're going to be going through some currently available property examples, going through the bottom lines and really running through pro formas. So we're going to be giving you the ins and outs of the pricing, how these properties cash flow, the rent values, fixed expenses, and variable expenses. So what we hope you guys take from today's webinar, we really hope you learn something. So please feel free to take out the iPads or the notepads to take some notes. If at any time during the presentation you have a question, please feel free to write it in the chat section. If there's something that might need a little bit more in-depth conversation, please feel free to write it down, and Natasha and I will go over it in a consultation after the event. If at any point during the webinar you notice a link or a QR code, please feel free to scan or write it down. And always remember that a recording of this presentation will be sent to your emails 24 hours after its completion. So I'm kind of looking through the attendee list here and super excited to see everyone who is logged on. That's always amazing to see. Looks like we have some clients who have been around for a long time, but I'm seeing some new faces on here, which is really exciting. So we are Marshall Reddick Real Estate, and we are a full service real estate brokerage and company that has 4 divisions. So our first division is our real estate brokerage, where we help clients buy and sell their primary homes, but we also do investment transactions. Last year we did 900 transactions, 90% of which we currently manage, which brings us over to our second division, and that's the property management division. So like I mentioned, I spent some time in our property management division, and really we do everything for the landlord, right? So we take care of everything from leasing to maintenance, renovations, rent collections, and so much more, so that you as clients only have to focus on collecting your rent check every month. Our third division is our private money lending. So sometimes when you can't qualify for conventional financing, you need private financing, and that's where Marshall Reddick steps in. We provide non-owner occupied recourse loans to investors doing fix and flips, buying new construction, or looking to purchase new investment property. And then our fourth division is our investment fund. So the same way you can own rental property and collect a rent check, you can do the same in the investment fund, in that you have this investment and you collect your quarterly disbursements or your distributions. Like I mentioned initially, I'm also invested in our mortgage fund. So these are the areas in which we do business. I'm broadcasting live today from our Newport Beach office, beautiful Orange County. We also have our office up in Pasadena in the Los Angeles area. So we have our brokerage side and also our property management side in both of these offices. Moving over to the state of Tennessee, We have our offices in San Antonio, New Braunfels, and Office, all connected by the I-35 corridor, a really major corridor that runs through all of these major metros, right? Our newest offices are in Houston, in Dallas, and then moving over to Tennessee, where we have Natasha Broadcasting, we have our Clarksville office and our Nashville office. If you look just slightly above, we have Kentucky highlighted as well. That's because some of the properties that we manage are also in the state of Kentucky. And then we have our last but certainly not least, Cape Coral office over in Florida. So we are not in these markets by accident. Marshall Reddick takes a lot of time to research and spend a lot of time looking over studies. And we use this to determine where we help our clients buy investment property. That's where we open offices. And essentially we look for all of these characteristics. None of these characteristics are more important than the other, but it's super important that when you're choosing where to invest, you're meeting all of these characteristics, right? All of these characteristics are met and they're available in the market in which you're choosing to invest. So number one is job market, super important. There must be stable employment in these markets with unemployment under the national average. Vacancy rate, there must be a demand for rental housing, right? So we want to make sure that the vacancy rate is very low and that people are looking for rental property and properties are not sitting 60, 90, 100 days on the market. We don't want to see that in these markets. Economic diversity, we want to make sure that there is not only one employer in the area, we want to see diversity in several sectors in the area, such as government, education. We want to make sure there's manufacturing, tech, healthcare, so on and so forth. A lot of our markets have huge military presence, which accounts for a lot of our tenants, right? Housing affordability is super important, right? So this means investors have access to properties without massive amounts of capital. There's a lot of opportunity for runway for appreciation when you invest with less capital. So we want to make sure the markets in which we're doing business and the markets that we're showing you as clients are affordable, right? Gerald, to answer your question, is the state landlord friendly? Is the county and the city landlord friendly, right? So with the exception of California, the markets that we're in are extremely landlord friendly. Clarksville in specific is extremely landlord friendly. We want to make sure that there's a strong education, right? So we love strong education because it turns into white collar jobs that give us a great base for stable tenants, right? High salaries, and it means you can essentially increase rents and feel confident that increasing rents will be okay and it will be sustainable. And then lastly, but certainly not least, and this is an interesting point, we want to make sure that there's reliable property management in the area. There shouldn't be just one property manager. You should have a variety of property managers. You as a consumer should be able to go online and research these companies or research the area and type property management and see a list and really go through and review for yourself so that you're not reliant on just one property manager. There's a lot of options out there, and you as the investor are free to choose based on who you communicate and who's the best fit for you. And here is a snapshot of all of our company photos from our Christmas party in December. So these are our most recent photos. At the top left, we have our San Antonio team with that, that's the New Braunfels office with the big blue sign. You can see it from the 35 headed south from Austin back to San Antonio, really big blue sign. In the top right is our San Antonio team. On the bottom left is our Florida team in Cape Coral. In the middle is our Newport Beach team. A few more people you notice there because we have our accounting division and our private lending division in-house here in Newport Beach. And then on the bottom right is our Clarksville, Tennessee team. So this is the team that we'll be talking about here. You see a healthy mix of realtors and property managers all in that photo. This is a good snapshot of all the properties we have currently under management in Tennessee. So as you can see, a really big footprint in the Clarksville area, kind of towards the northmost part, the northwestmost part of Clarksville. Also, some properties under management in the southeast part as well. We're expanding in Nashville. We're getting a lot of phone calls. This is a little unupdated. There should be a few more pins there, but we're seeing a lot of growth in Nashville. We've worked and we've met with some builders out there to find new communities. Today's focus will be on Clarksville, but as we expand as a company, we're also moving more into Nashville. So we're hoping to see that grow as we grow as well. And with all that being said, I'm going to be passing it over to Natasha. Natasha and I work very closely together on a lot of projects. She is the boots on the ground in the state of Tennessee and in Clarksville specifically, where an advisor like myself would work more on the back end side, looking at the financials and the breakdown of the property. Natasha is boots on the ground, spending a lot of time building relationships with the builders and going through and showing the property, taking live photos and communicating you on a day-to-day basis. Really just essentially boots on the ground, and she's been fantastic to work with. And yeah, Natasha, please take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Tasso. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. My name is Natasha. I am here in Clarksville. I'm a licensed realtor here. I have been here since 2011. I've worked in customer service for over 15 years. I am from Hilo, Hawaii, actually. And I always tease Tasso, I'm like, that is paradise to me. I come from paradise, yet I moved here in Clarksville back in 2011, noticed the growth throughout our time here, and decided, you know what, we're gonna make this home. We can afford to live comfortably here. The town is great, so much family things to do. We've got Nashville, a big city, you know, close reach, about 45-minute drive. So we decided to stay here and just call this place home. I am a boy mom to 3 amazing boys. I have a 16-year-old, a 14, almost 15, and a 10-year-old, almost 11, and an awesome husband, always working. We've been married for over 17 years now. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. So we can get started here. All right, so we're gonna go right into the major statistics about Clarksville. We're gonna talk about the population. Here in Clarksville, we have over 328,000 people. I wouldn't really call it a small town, but you do have those small town vibes in the feel. But everyone here is friendly. I mean, your neighbor becomes your friend. You have neighborhood events, kids play outside. You know, your kids make friends really easy here. I know mines do. There's, like I said, families everywhere in these neighborhoods, and people just connect. They really connect around here. The median age here in Clarksville is around 32. So you're gonna see a lot of young families with children, like I mentioned, in neighborhoods. You'll see restaurants with lines. Me and Tasso talked about this, lines out the door. You're waiting about an hour because there's, you know, everybody's trying to go out to eat and enjoy their time. And also the median household income is around $66,000, and people live comfortably here. With Clarksville being affordable, that is a great income to live comfortably. And then here we're going to talk about home ownership. And home ownership here in Clarksville, I would say about 61% here is homeowners, and the rest is going to be your tenants and your renters. That's a great amount there. The average home price here in Clarksville is around $315,000, which I know compared to other cities, especially like in Nashville, I want to say it's over 400,000. Easy, close to $500,000 there. Also, what's great is the unemployment rate here. It's extremely low. We're under 4%. People here are busy working. They have so many opportunities out here for you to get a job. They pay well. And like I said, people love to just work and live out here. So
yeah, amazing.
Yes. Oh, this is great. So home values in Clarksville, I love to talk about it. And here on this slide, as you can see, since 2018, there was a consistent rise, as you can see on that graph, in home values. Home values have not dropped since I've been here anyway. I've just noticed like the appreciation just keep going up here, and it's really great for investors, even home buyers, primary home buyers. You know, your equity that you build on the homes here is just superb. So that is amazing.
Natasha, you mentioned something to me a couple days ago, being that you moved from Hawaii and how you felt like Clarksville was really home. I think that a lot of people feel the same way out there. I think that what we're going to cover as far as jobs are concerned, as far as affordability is concerned, and just overall feel in that area really kind of resurfaces and reproves why this, chart is on an upward trend. I think that it will continue because people are kind of moving and they understand and don't want to move out. So I think that it's gained a lot of popularity. I think that it had a really big pop during COVID, as you can see here by the chart. I think that this figure will continue rising because having personally been to Tennessee and spending time in Clarksville, I really liked the area. And I think that attested to a lot of the reason, there has been so much growth here.
Absolutely. You're so right about that. So many people are driving here and falling in love with it off of one visit. Say they visit a friend or they just hear about us because we've been ranked top city. And I feel like once you come here, like you said, you just fall in love. And then you see all, like the home values and you're thinking about your future. And like I've told you before, me and my husband have bought homes here, and to see the value of your home just increasing, the equity, and it's amazing. You can't get better than that for sure. And I do agree. I think it's going to keep rising. And again, this is top 5 reasons people are moving to Clarksville. And I can tell you that our population continues to grow. You can look it up. It continues to grow every year. The one most reason I think is affordability. We have a lower cost of living here. Housing options are, compared to like I said, Nashville, are much more affordable. There's more available now as you've seen all the new construction coming in. There's, at the price point, it's hard to beat. And you go 45 minutes up the interstate and it's a lot more pricey in a big city like Nashville. And affordability, I'm talking from housing to groceries to gas. You name it. People live comfortably out here. The job opportunities, that we always talk about this. The major employers that are right here in Clarksville, right at your fingertips. They're right in our city. We have FedEx. I think they have about 250 employees there. We have an Amazon fulfillment center right here in town as well. Mind you, these are all within a few miles of each other. We have like an industrial area that kind of, goes right across the interstate on the way to Nashville. We have train. And I think the biggest thing that we have here besides Google is going to be the Army post. We have Fort Campbell Army post here, and it is the 2nd largest post in the world. We're home to about 30,000 active duty military members. And on post, they only house about 4,400. So that tells you over 20,000 soldiers are out here looking for homes to rent, buy. They're offered BAH when they don't live on post, which is amazing. And their BAH is their basic housing allowance. The Army says, hey, we'll give you this amount of money per month. You go find housing off post because they can't house everybody. And I know, like, for the lower enlisted, if you have like a dependent, you can get about $1,773 a month, which is great. It helps them afford their rentals. These Army, it's probably the most of our community, I would say. Again, proximity to Nashville, another reason why people love it, because you have that big city that's less than an hour away. You're on one interstate. I know Tassa has drove it, and I drive it all the time. It's really an easy drive. Another thing, we have great high rate.
45-minute drive from Clarksville to Nashville, if I remember correctly.
45 minutes and you get right into Nashville. Of course, it, depending where in Nashville you want to be, it'd be a little over an hour, not much. Yeah. Education, that's a huge thing, right? Like me, knowing I have kids, I look into schools, I look into the ratings. We have high rated schools right here in Clarksville. We also have Austin Peay State University, which brings, a lot of families here. Their kids go to college here and they tend to visit their kids and they're like, hey, this is a great town. Let's go ahead and move there. Another thing is the quality of life, and I always talk to Tasso about this. You get that small town vibes. You know, there's a downtown park that people go and hang out, bring their families. You can walk around and go get ice cream, just really enjoy and feel safe. And you have those big city amenities, and you have major employers that you don't have to leave town. You can just enjoy everything right here. And it's also a really big thriving community. So it's a great place.
Yeah.
So many
Totally.
things. All right, and we've a little touched on this. This is cost of living. Cost of living in Clarksville is great. If you look at the United States at 100, overall we're at 89%. Groceries, we're still under that 100%. There's a couple on here like utilities and miscellaneous, but overall we're a very affordable and low cost of living town. I always talk about the gas here because, like I told Tasso, I went back home to Hawaii for a visit a few months ago, and we went to the gas pump, and I couldn't believe that it was just under $5 a gallon. We get spoiled out here because we're at like 240, and I'm like, you guys put gas out here? Like, there's no way. You're like double what we are. You talk about a gallon of milk. Out here, you can get a gallon of milk for $3. Versus a place like California or Hawaii, I'm sure it's like 8 or more. So cost of living is huge here, and housing. Look at that, 79%, Tasso. That's amazing. Like I said, people can live comfortably here, so they make it home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
This looks like it's slightly.
All right, yeah, so this is great. This is our vacancy versus occupied here in Tennessee. As you can see, as an investor, this is amazing news. Right now, currently, we are at 5% vacancy. We confidently, I can say we rent our homes really quickly, fairly within 30 days. Lately, a lot of the new builds have been going even less than that, very, very quickly. And then on this side, on the right side of the slide here, you can see there is owner versus renter occupied, and that 41% out of that 328,000 people, that's a lot of people that are looking for rental. So that's really great. Great for you guys to see right there.
Yeah, I think in the first slide we mentioned that it was at 61%, so this might be from 2024. So homeownership has gone up slightly in Tennessee and Kentucky. So this is also factoring in the state of Kentucky, just to kind of touch on the first slide that mentioned occupancy for homeowners was about 61. What's really cool about a couple of these things, vacancy rate in Clarksville is very low. We're going to be going over some examples of new builds and new construction single families. Natasha and agents like Malika and some of our other agents in Clarksville have rented these properties in less than our 30-day expected window. I can think of 3 off the top right now that went in 21 days or less, right? You had one on Emma Dean that went in 7 days, another one that went, I think, like 19, and one at 22, something like that, like really quick. So we're leasing them out quick out there.
Yes.
Meaning it will be a cycle of our investor purchases with us. So we'll have an initial consult. We'll go through the property's pro forma. We'll close on the property. We'll contract on the property, close on the property. And then obviously the rental period comes up where we look to rent the property for the landlord. They've just acquired it, right? There will be very specific instances, and in some cases, we can actually begin to pre-lease during the escrow period. That's very occasional and circumstance-based, but sometimes we're even able to begin pre-leasing these properties, which is excellent, so that on close day, you know, you have already placed a Marshall Reddick screened tenant. Very case-by-case basis, but it's something we could look into, right? Something like that. Ultimately, the properties that we are selecting are in neighborhoods where vacancy is extremely low. That could be something that poses a little bit of a scare to some investors is, oh, you know, after I close, how long is my property going to sit vacant? A lot of these are under 30 days, which is amazing. We're seeing these statistics on our end. We run our reports on the property management side every month, and we're seeing these just, you know, the ones that we're going to be showing you are renting extremely quickly. So this is a very good figure to keep in mind. There are other states where maybe you're finding a property that's a lot less expensive, But hey, you closed very inexpensively, but good luck getting it rented out now, right? That's not an issue you're facing in Clarksville.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, this one's great. Just so people can see, it's not only what we say, but nationally we are ranked. We've been ranked top zip code of 2024, and that's at #1. I know in the state of Tennessee, we're like the fastest growing city. We're ranked as the 5th fastest growing housing market in the US. So that is huge, very huge. And you can see it, like Tassos came out here and you can just see the homes just coming up, and our city is really growing. Fort Campbell, again, the 2nd largest military base in the world. As I've told you guys, they've only 4,400 homes, excuse me, on post. And then that 20,000 plus soldiers looking for homes to rent. We're also ranked 4th best city in the nation for new business attraction. And that's probably why the big employers like Amazon's coming out here. Google, there was a rumor they're expanding. We've got FedEx, Train, Agro, you name it. These big companies, LG, they're like, hey, this city is growing. We need to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Rick, for asking a great question. I'd like to take a moment to answer it. Rick is asking, can you talk about the turnover rate when renting to active military folks, perhaps being deployed? So a lot of times, people in the military will be PCS'd. A couple things on that. Our average tenancy stay in Tennessee right now is 2 to 3 years. So we're seeing that on average on all of our properties under management, and we included that snippet. It's very case by case. What I can say on that is if the time that a tenant is in place and they're being PCS, sometimes there are military orders and they are able to exit out of their lease. A really good thing about working with Marshall Reddick on the property management side, there's plenty of benefits on the brokerage side where we help you find and locate the property, but we're asking questions to these tenants such as, is there a possibility that you are being PCS'd? How long are you looking to stay in the home? These are all great benefits of using a Marshall Reddick leasing agent. So we're really getting to know the tenants who are inquiring to see the property and getting to understand their position. Some will be on 3-4 year contracts, and we'll know that, right? So as far as turnover is concerned, the average on our properties currently under management are 2 to 3 years. If the time comes that there is a case of an early termination, outside of like military orders, they will be charged a full lease break fee, right? And we're able to speak to you about that, to figure out at which, to what extent you'd like to pursue that early termination clause. And then there are military orders, obviously, if in the case of emergency where this does come into fruition. So a great question. Thank you for asking. Yeah, thank you. Mark, how does Marshall Reddick support midterm rentals to capture more transient people? So Marshall Reddick only focuses on long-term rentals. So everything that we rent is a year or more. So we're entering agreements in the 1 year mark, and we're having them sign a 1 year lease agreement. So we're not really doing short-term whatsoever or midterm. So if your question is if we do midterm rentals, we wouldn't be able to manage a property in the short-term base. We do long-term, year-long or more leases. And then I'll take one more question here. Thank you so much, Pam. What suburbs are most in demand? How long has Marshall Reddick been promoting Clarksville? Natasha, would you like to talk about some of the suburbs that are in demand? I know I have a couple of pockets and neighborhoods in mind. Do you care, like, one moment to speak about an area that we're seeing really kind of boom? We have a slide on this as well, I believe, right?
Say yes, the property picks that we did, yes, we absolutely share these properties. I would say it is the Mills Creek subdivision, very popular. As you've seen, I told you we've closed 3 last year, got them rented really quick. Malika, another agent here in the office, just sold another 3. I mean, got at least in weeks, in just a couple weeks. So, I mean, I would say Mills Creek, that is in the West Creek School Division, a very popular area. If we sell a house there and we're going to rent it, it is gone, Tasso, and I know you've seen that. Very popular area. It's kind of in the middle of town, to be honest. It's a few miles from Post and a few miles from Exit 4, which is like our main restaurants and shopping and such. Very great location.
Thank you so much, Natasha. Yeah, Mr. Allen, thank you so much for giving us this information that I just pulled up on my phone here. In-N-Out headquarters moving out to Tennessee. What a great point. So that's a good one that, you know, we're learning from our clients, just like we're learning from our resources, and we hear new things like this all the time. So that is excellent. Yeah, that's a huge one. We're going to move on here and take, we're getting a lot of questions coming in. So thank you guys so much. We're going to continue on and answer the rest of these towards the end of the event.
Yes, thank you all so much. Let's see here. All right, so we're going back to those major employers here. Like we've mentioned, Google, Hankook, LG. The LG Chem plant is like an expansion, and it's over 420 acres long, and that one's going to be in phases. It's so big, they're doing phases. They started at the end of 23, they're continuing to grow. Train, as you see, Austin Peay State University, Bridgestone. I know Hankook is going to come up in a couple of slides, but they're also doing an expansion on that as well. Fort Campbell again, you can't forget all these big companies, because a lot of these are going to bring your tenants right here to Clarksville, and they're going to keep them here. Working for companies like these, people tend to stay. They, like I said, affordable living, but they get really good pay as well.
Yeah.
Really on that.
Alan,
Go ahead.
Alan, thank you so much for pointing that out. I did a little bit more looking here on my phone, and it looks like the In-N-Out headquarters will be opening in Franklin, Tennessee, which is just a little bit south of Nashville, I believe, if I remember correctly, Natasha. Franklin, Tennessee.
It's not too far. Yep. From Clarksville, about an hour and 20 minutes.
But a huge thing, right? Like, we're seeing expansion, we're seeing major corporations invest in a place where the tax rate is low, and it's just, we're seeing a lot of that now, where, you know, these major corporations are choosing to invest in markets and states where they're getting a better bang for their buck. So great point. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, so here we're talking about growth. That red dotted line there down the middle, that's going to be the Interstate 24. And alongside that, you're going to see all those big employers we talked about. LG, a little bit to your right there is going to be Google. And you're going to see Amazon, you're going to see FedEx. They're just kind of running along the interstate. And that's why there's so much room out here. I know Tasso has drove out here. There's so much land. Land is affordable here for these big companies. Like you said, they get more bang for their buck. They're coming out here, they're buying, look at 420 acres and putting, you know, that big LG Chem plant out here. A lot of this growth, I'm sorry, I'm trying to zoom in here. But yep, just this basically shows you the growth right along the interstate. And this is right here in Clarksville. You don't even have to go to Nashville, and it's right there. Okay, as we talked about, this is just for future growth plans. That LG Chem plant, like I talked about a few times already, they already broke ground December of 23 on phase 1, and they're going to continue on that as well. And they approximate, it's so big that it's going to take to 2027 Tasso to finish. So that's going to be a big one. A lot of jobs. They say over 800 jobs, and at least 300 of them are going to start at $100,000 per employee. So that's really good for people. And like I said, that's going to keep people here. We also have massive expansion on the Hankook tire plant there. We've got some really amazing big companies that see the growth. Like you said, they can afford the land. They're going to expand out here. They're close to a big city like Nashville. So we've got some growth coming along.
Absolutely, something to look forward to.
Yes.
Wow, Natasha, that was awesome. We hit a lot of really good points. For everyone who is excited to kind of see the numbers and the breakdown of what these properties look like, we've spent a lot of time. I personally was in the state of Tennessee meeting with these builders. Natasha was in these meetings where we actually sat down with the builders and we looked at some of these properties. So these are hand-picked properties. We spent a lot of time on working and running through the numbers and seeing what makes sense for our investors. So we're really excited to present these to you, and we're going to be presenting them in form of performance. So they'll have one photo of the front of the house, and then it'll be breaking down all the variable expenses and light items to show you a good estimate of what the property will net every month. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the first one here, and Natasha will take the second, and we have a couple good ones here. So this is a very modest one, a really nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath, very new build in 2024. Sitting at about the square footage that we go for in these investment properties in whatever state it may be is between 1,400 to about 1,900 square feet. Sometimes we'll do some 4.3s, which actually cash flow a little bit better. They're sometimes a little bit pricier that exceed 2,000 square feet, so they'll get up to 2,200 square feet. But this 3-bed, 2-bath model is a great model. And it's pretty affordable, right at around 331,000, right? 900. So you put it right at 332,000 there. We like to break these down always with a 30% down payment. In this case, it's just under 100,000, right? Initial down payment. Repair costs. Some people will ask me, what's the benefit of buying new construction? I'll say you're not putting any upfront investment as far as repairs are concerned, right? You buy a resale, you could face a lot of money in upfront expenses really fixing the property. You have an inspection during your escrow period that goes in, and you're getting rough estimates. It's kind of always rushed because you're looking to meet the contingency deadline, so you really don't get a good scope of everything you need. You obviously go in and you have your contractors go and bid out projects after your close, but you're facing zero initial repair. Natasha, if you could for a second walk us through what some of these builders blue tape inspection looks like. I think that if there's something more than 2 pieces of blue tape meaning issues with the property that we're able to see, what's their policy on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, this builder in particular, amazing. I've seen it. I've walked through the blue tape. If you see one little scuff in the paint or say something's not, the trim's not in, which I haven't seen that yet, but if they have more than 2 blue tapes, they don't get their incentive. And what that is they get a bonus if they have less than 2 things found in the inspection, which gives them that incentives, give them a better work ethic. I think they want to work hard and they want to make everything perfect so they can get that bonus. It's just a really good incentive that the builder offers, and I really appreciate that. They also have a team member that walks it with me, and he's out there. I've walked it with John, and he's out there looking, just making sure. He's like, we got to make sure this is great. So just a great experience with that builder.
Yeah, absolutely. So zero initial repair cost on these. You're purchasing a property that was just newly built. In the case where you're going to be getting a couple different inspections, you're going to be getting your inspection in the escrow period. And then if you're an out-of-state person and you have Marshall Reddick manage this property, you're also going to be receiving an inspection from our maintenance manager. Everything is warrantied by the builder. I believe in this case, and with this builder, it's very case by case, and we'll go through that in specific when we're looking at your property. I believe on this one, it's a year warranty on every maintenance item for the most part, and then situations like 5-year on electrical, and then 10-year on all major appliances, and you have your roof warranty. So it comes with you can rest assured that your property is warranted on all major maintenance items for sure for the first year, right? So very good to know that kind of in the back of your head when you're going to purchase an investment property with zero in an initial repair cost. Closing costs are very average, sitting at about 2.8%, right? So your investment capital needed for 771 Emma Dean in Clarksville is 108,000, close to 109,000 to enter this. Gross rents. This is a really good one because Natasha has experience with leasing as well. And this is what we were mentioning, where these properties, I mentioned it, what was the other property on them? I believe it might have been 776 that we rented out on Emma Dean that just did like 12 days. All of these properties are doing under 30 days, which is great in these communities. So this we comped out at $1,850. That's a price that we think is a hot price that will get the property leased. We don't like to push too much over. We like to keep the properties at a rate where it's attractive to the tenant, where it will get attention. We like to have a lot of clicks on our property, so we have a wide range of interest and tenant pools, so we can really spend time speaking to our tenants and getting a feel for them before we actually tour them. So in this case, this property comped out, and comped is running comparables on the neighboring properties with the same bed bath square footage at around $1,850. So the builder is able to offer an incentive on this property to buy down the interest rate to 5.25, so less than your average right now, sitting at about 6.5. You know, in some instances a little bit higher. You'd have to qualify for this rate. So when you speak to our preferred lender, he'll let you know if you do qualify for this interest rate with the builder incentive. But in this case, you're getting a competitive interest rate, less than the average on what you're seeing on most properties, right? Taxes on a monthly basis, $225. Insurance, $108. Management fee is 9% standard in the state of Tennessee for us. HOA fee in this case, in this community, is $30. Utilities and landscaping are paid by the tenant. So you're looking at fixed monthly expenses at just under $1,800, so $1,799. Your monthly income on this cash flow, not including variable expenses, are $50 and 55 cents. So you're receiving a monthly cash flow of $50 on this property. Now we put down below variable expenses, which are really important to factor in, right? We put very conservative figures on these, extremely conservative figures. So on new builds, we always put in 5% as a conservative figure that you should factor in when just running through the numbers of 5% of 1 month's rent, right? So in this case, this is saying that you will have $92 in maintenance every month, which is really not the case with these new builds. You can ultimately eliminate that. Like we mentioned, in most of our properties, we're renting them out in under 30 days. So this vacancy rate, we still price very conservatively at 8% of 1 month's rent. So we just multiply the rental by, we multiply our 8% by the total purchase price and factor in a very conservative vacancy rate at a little over 30 days. It is likely that if you're working with us, your properties will rent in under 30 days, right? And a leasing fee in this case, and in all cases when you're leasing a property through Marshall Reddick, is 50% of 1 month's rent. And we break it down into monthly payments there. We're gonna go and talk about another property that we've selected for you, in which we'll kind of explain the returns 15-year projected profit and your ROI on this property. And we'll kind of go into what these classes mean, but I'm gonna let Natasha talk about the next one here for a second. And then I'll touch on kind of a couple of other items that we look at.
Absolutely.
This is a
Again, the Mills Creek subdivision, that popular subdivision we talked about. This is another 3-2. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. The primary on this one is on the first floor. It is a 2-story home. It doesn't look like it, but once you go in, it's really spacious. You got a beautiful kitchen. You're walking into a living room with a nice, beautiful fireplace. This one is listed at $334,900. And again, we do the down payment around $30,000 down. I'm so sorry, 30% down. And then the closing cost at the 2.8%, bringing it down to an investment capital needed of $109,000 on this one. The gross rent is also $1,850. You can go a tad higher, but like Tasso said, we'd be very careful on our numbers here, because we don't want, you know, we go with the market, and this one's around 1,556 square feet, so that's perfect rent amount there. And again, at the 5.25% interest rate, this is the breakdown. You have your taxes per month, your insurance at $108, your taxes is $191. We've got management fee of a 9%. The HOA again, this one is 28. I know the other one said 30, but it's actually 28. Again, we're being conservative with our numbers. And the great part is utilities. You guys, as an investor and a homeowner renting your home out, you don't worry about the utilities. That is for the tenant. And that will bring this one down to a monthly positive cash flow of $74.29. Again, you have that estimated maintenance and such, as Tasso touched on. The builder takes care of all of that for the first year. And he's really good. We've met with him and he has told us of stories of his maintenance requests 13 years later. You remember that, Tasso? He's like, 13 years later, someone called me for something, you know, really small. And guess what? He went out there and he fixed it. He has really high pride in his work and his homes. And he says a customer is not a customer for a day, it's a customer for life. So I love that about them. Small, family owned, and really care about their product for sure.
Yeah, so I'll talk on kind of the left side here. We spoke a lot about the breakdowns, but we're seeing on these properties specifically about 3.1 annual appreciation. And this is adjusted over a 25-year market trend. So you're going to appreciate at about you know, a little over 3% on these properties per year. You tend to see cash flow in these markets is what is really good. These properties that we're presenting to you are A-class, meaning that they tend to attract a higher income tenant pool, a tenant pool that is just tends to have white collar jobs, and these neighborhoods are very nice, quiet neighborhoods. So this is an A-class property, and what is used to factor in, you know, A-class, B-class, C-class, D-class is just ultimately the price of the property compared to the national average. So these are A-class properties that we're looking at here, and we're only going to be presenting A-class properties today. Single family, the lots on these are looking pretty good. And like I mentioned, still between the 1,400 to around 1,800 square foot inside. So just to kind of break down the right side there.
Absolutely, Tasso. These neighborhoods are so pretty. They've got sidewalks. You can walk to the elementary school. I know that means a lot to families. So just wanted to touch on that as well.
Natasha, do you know off the top of your head the school districts in the Emma Dean communities?
Yes, that one will be the West Creek School Districts.
West Creek School District, okay. We're gonna see a couple more of these. Are there fencing requirements by a certain time frame? Are you referring to like fencing around the backyard of the property? You can negotiate that by a certain time frame. What are the weather-related issues that Clarksville might face? Natasha, the weather-related, what kind of weather are we facing as far as problematic weather in Clarksville? I know that it's not a huge thing. I know that it gets pretty cold out there.
It does get cold. We go through all the seasons here. I think that's what I love most about Clarksville. You have every single season here, and you can tell when it's changing. It gets really cold. It does get really hot in the summer. We do have your normal, typical rain season, thunderstorm season, you know, where you have a lot of rain. And then, yes, we do occasionally get tornado season, excuse me. We are not in Tornado Alley at all. I've lived here, like I said, since 2011, and only one has really hit here in Clarksville. We're even close to me, and thankfully we were great. A lot of our homes were great. I don't know the percentage of damage it did, but it wasn't enough, and I feel like the town is back up and running, and everybody comes together for that, but it is normal. Yeah, we go through all the seasons here, but nothing really alarming. These homes are also on a slab, so I always feel like the plumbing is protected as far as underneath the slab. It's tend to not have issues because of that. So these homes in particular are a great option for that. Summertime is really hot, but bearable. We've got creeks that people spend time in. But yeah, we go through all the seasons. Nothing really crazy.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm super impressed by these questions. We're going to make it a point to answer everybody's question. I'm going to take maybe 2 more here on this slide, and then we'll kind of really hit all the other questions towards the end of the webinar. So your question will get answered, I promise. Thank you, Pam. Yes, by the HOA fencing. Natasha, I know that we can negotiate fencing into some of these offers by the builder where he'll pay for them, but fencing isn't required by the HOA, is it?
No, absolutely not. I know in this particular neighborhood, you can't like have a chain link fence, but you can. They do allow the new vinyl fencing that they do. A lot of people here do the privacy wood fence. So yeah, definitely you can do it at any time. You don't have to do it right when you buy the home. It's not required at all, but it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Pam. Excellent question. Hi, Brittany. Can you purchase with 20% down? So what Natasha and I will do when we consult with you is we'll kind of go through a lot of different things. You might see a little bit less cash flow with 20% down, right? It might be that you're a little upside down on your monthly income. However, this is a conversation that when we connect you with our preferred lender, he can kind of see what it looks like with that scale and ultimately give you a yes or no answer on a question like that. It typically is 25 or above. I've heard instances in investment property that you do 20. I think that it's a very safe bet to go with 30% in. I think that it makes the property cash flow, and it just helps with a lot of things overall as far as structuring the deal. So it's not I wouldn't say no. I'd say that, you know, once you get pre-approved, it's a conversation that you can speak with the lender about. Using our preferred lender will allow you to access an interest rate like 5.25%, which also contributes a lot to the property's ability to cash flow. So essentially, it would be a question that we would kind of talk about more in the pre-approval stages. Thank you, everybody, so much. We're going to continue on here, and then we're going to answer all of these questions. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to talk a little bit about 145 Cherry Fields, lot 45. So we're presenting another 3.2 here. The last one was a 3.2.5, so we had that extra half bath. List price on this one is $329,900. This is available now. We're doing it with another 30% down payment, right? Initial repair cost, $1,000. I'm wondering if that might have been a mistake there. Typically, these initial repairs on the new constructions are zero, right? With closing costs being right at around 2.8 on these. So investment capital needed on this one is right around, you know, 110,000, a little less. These are renting for consistently around 1850. These are in the same neighborhood. Actually, Natasha, is the Fields far off from Emma Dean?
Yeah, so this one is going to be probably another 15-minute drive, 10 to 15. It's closer to Post, but it's another beautiful neighborhood. Also the same builder, very nice floor plan, sidewalks, again, just really beautiful neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, so these are comping out these 3.2s in Clarksville right at around 1850. I feel like maybe on the last one we saw where it's a 3.2 and 2.5 with a little bit more square footage. Let me pull this up again. You might be able to push for just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so we're seeing 1550 versus 14. So yeah, you know, on something like you factor all this in when we're looking at properties together. Like on a 779, right? You're getting a little bit of a higher purchase price than something like Cherry Fields, slightly higher, but you might be able to push a little bit for a higher rent in a case like this, right? Because they're getting that extra half bath and they're getting that extra square footage. So we'll hop right back here to Cherry Fields. Gross rent on this right at around 1850. We're still able to secure that 5.25% interest rate on this through special financing in our relationships with the builders. Tax rate a lot lower than what you're seeing in states like Tennessee, or excuse me, in states like Texas or California, obviously. Insurance right at around $108. Management fee still at 9%. HOA fee is a little bit less in this community, $28. Utilities and landscaping are passed along to the tenant. I saw a question in the chat somewhere asking how do we enforce landscaping on the tenant. There's a couple different ways. our leasing agents are often in these communities. We have a lot of pockets where we're doing a lot of business, so we're always passing by. Another creative way you can do this is you yourself can hire a landscaper and pass the information along to the tenant. And ultimately, our property management team will track it, and that will be in touch with the landscaper to make sure that they are keeping up with these properties. Sometimes owners like to take landscaping on for themselves, just so they have complete control. We're really good at monitoring it. Again, we have a lot of boots on the ground, and Clarksville is a pretty tight-knit city, so it's closely monitored, and it would be technically a lease violation if in their lease it is mentioned that they're responsible for something like landscaping. It would be enforced with a penalty if they did not keep up the landscaping. So it is very heavily monitored.
Yeah, absolutely. By the HOA as well. Yes.
So if the HOA sends a letter, that's another thing. They will be responsible for the fee by the HOA. You as an owner will not be if they're in the lease, and they will also receive a lease violation. And we're very communicative and decent with them, and we communicate with owners as well. Letting you guys know everything that happens at the property. We'll let you know. But we do strictly abide by the lease, right? So the property manager's main role is to enforce the lease. That's what they're there for. And essentially, if you get a letter from the HOA, or we get information from a landscaper that the property is not being upheld or somebody's not being paid, or we factor that in. So landscaping and utilities are typically the tenant's responsibility. In this one, you're seeing a little bit higher of a cash flow, and that's because it's slightly less in price. And I believe that in some of these communities, taxes are slightly lower. So I believe some are sitting at 1.8 and then 1.9. So I think this is a slightly lower tax rate in this community, and we're going to factor that in when looking. So I'm going back here to this one. So the taxes are a little bit higher, not much, less than $10, but on a month-to-month basis, it adds up to just a higher cash flow, from a yearly standpoint. So taxes in some of these different communities are just slightly different. And when we're going through our consultation, we'll be able to go through all of these specifics, right? So same deal with the estimated maintenance. We always put in a figure of 8%, or excuse me, on the new builds, it should be 5%. And ultimately, with these new construction properties, you're not seeing much maintenance at all, because it is a brand new build, it is fresh, it is new. And when something comes up, it does fall under most of the time the builder warranty. Estimated vacancy, same deal as we've discussed. These properties in Cherry Fields, Natasha, are the Emma Dean ones we're renting really low. What did you see on the Cherry Fields side? So this is about a 15-minute drive from our Emma Dean street. Yeah.
Also a different school district, but again, confidently within 30 days. I tend to see that tenants, they love the new, nice looking homes with the neighborhoods and, family friendly neighborhoods. So this is another one of those. And that's why these are one of the ones we picked for sure.
Yeah. Curious to see. So still right around 3.1% annual appreciation in Clarksville. It's pretty consistent throughout. Sorry, I'm so happy to be receiving all of these questions. I do like take a moment to skim them as they come in. Yeah, the appreciation is sitting right around 3.1% annually. And your projected 15-year profit on this property would be right around $177,000, and 10% return on investment over a 15-year course, just over the course of the annual returns. We'll take a moment to switch over to one of the property. I was looking at this property personally on 26 Cherry Acres here. This is a very nice 4-bedroom, so a little bit pricier. Natasha, you can walk through this one, but I really like the cash flow on this one, and I like that it's a 4-bed, 2.5, so slightly larger than what we typically do as far as our average between 14 to 18, 19. This is slightly larger, but it does allow for a little bit more rent, right? A good amount more rent, and I'll let Natasha kind of run through the numbers on this one, and then we'll take some time to go.
This, we have a lot of families, like I always talk about, big families as well. So you want those options for them as well. The 4 bedrooms are good for people with kids and such, or mother-in-law that lives with them. So yeah, this one would go for around 376.9, as you can see there, with that 30% down payment, that'll be 113.70. With the closing costs, that'll be investment capital around 122, so $122,304. Not bad at all. Your gross rent a month is going to be the $21.50. Like you said, a bigger property, you can get more rent. Again, if you use our preferred lender, you can get that 5.25% rate. That's going to help with your payment. The taxes here are around $233. Again, it is a bigger property. Insurance still about $108 per month. Again, you have that management fee at 9%. The HOA fee is at $35 here. And I think that's a little high. I do believe this neighborhood is also $28. Utilities, again, landscaping is on the tenant. With fixed expenses, you're looking at around a positive cash flow of $138 on a beautiful 4-bedroom like this.
Yeah, this is a great one. Wow, time really flew. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but it is, we have hit that 6 o'clock. I'm going to take some time to go through some questions here. We'll run through this real quick. This is our essentially property management fees here, our cost to do so. So this can be very easily accessed. Us compared to other property management companies is essentially, and this is something we can take time to discuss in a consult, right? So lease renewal fee 15%, tenant late fee, we're splitting with you 50%, leasing fee 50%, no startup fees, no maintenance coordination fees. We're never upcharging on maintenance, and that's a whole nother hour-long conversation I could have on a professional property management, and we'll go through that if we decide to, or if you guys decide to reach out to us. We'll talk about the difference between Marshall Reddick, and as you can see there, 10 to 20% is what some property managers are charging you to coordinate maintenance. So they're incentivized to schedule maintenance, and essentially they make money when you're losing money. We never do that, right? Eviction coordination fees, everything is just very different from what we're seeing with other property managers. Why Marshall Reddick Property Management? You need to look at the importance of strong software. We use Appfolio, which is the #1 rated property management software. Is there a maintenance conflict of interest? With Marshall Reddick, there's not. We only make money when you as a client makes money. We're not looking to profit on your pain points. Something like maintenance could be something that is very sensitive for owners. This is your home. This is something that you've worked very hard to acquire. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars as an investment. A company should not be profiting when you're doing repairs, right? So is there a maintenance conflict of interest? Is something you should ask yourself and ask a property manager. Are you upcharging me for maintenance? Are you profiting on my losses, right? Cost versus service, which is more important? You'll see some property managers that are less on the front end percentage rise, right? And we're talking about Clarksville right now, we're at 9. You'll see some companies that are at 7, but they'll eat you alive when it comes to maintenance. They will not respond to your phone calls, right? A person like Natasha and I, we're always readily available. Our property managers respond within 24 hours, right? It's a policy of ours, but they also just love what they do and they're easy to talk to. Sometimes you can get yourself in a position where you're speaking to a property manager who might take 3-4 days to respond to you. I've seen it firsthand. And it's a really, really tough thing, right? Responsiveness, it translates right over, right? How responsive is your property manager? Have you not heard about your property in 2 weeks because your manager didn't respond? That's a horrible thing, right? Online reviews. We're a very transparent company. You can see our reviews by just Googling us. You can see what other people say. We have very high reviews, and that's because I truly believe we're a very ethical and transparent company that does well for everyone, right? And a good cancellation policy. Marshall Reddick is not looking to lock you into a term that is unreasonable. We're not looking to hold you hostage or prisoner. It is very simple. Our management agreements are structured in year increments. And if you choose to cancel after that, you would need to write a 30-day written notice. I've seen situations where it's a 90-day written notice and you're still paying management fees or hefty management fee breaks. There's all kinds of different situations that I think are just unethical, and they lock your property up, and you don't want that as a person who has worked hard to buy that property, right? We have so much education available on our website. We're an education-oriented company. Our clients have access to everything real estate on our website, right? So like Natasha and I are hosting this webinar tonight, we have hundreds of webinars on all kinds of different topics, all kinds of different markets, and different divisions within our company. So please visit our website and take some time to look at all this fantastic free education, all related to real estate. And please take advantage of our free market data packets. These are amazing packets that are updated yearly, that go into specifics. If there's something Natasha and I did not cover, it will be in this packet in Clarksville, right? We also have market data packets on our Austin office, in our Los Angeles offices, in our Cape Coral offices, in Nashville, right? Every market that we're in has a data packet. So please feel free to take a look at our market data packets, and download our property rating ebook. I mentioned A-class just briefly when we were looking at some of those Emma Dean properties and the Cherry Acres. You'll see how we come to determine where these properties classes are. And that is all described in our rating ebook. So please take some time to read that. It's an excellent read. Oh, lagging a little bit on my slides here. Excuse me. Excuse me, everyone. There we go. Oh, we'll jump through these real quick. All right, there are those beautiful houses again. Our rating ebook, like I mentioned, okay, and it's not going to populate there, so we'll just kind of take it out here and show you physically. Our reviews, again, very clear and transparent. You can take some time to look at all the great things that people have to say about our company and how well we handle difficult situations and how we've helped them find beautiful properties, right? And then these are all the major platforms where you can find us. Obviously, Facebook. We have a big presence on Meetup, Instagram. We have great YouTube videos with all of these recordings, our LinkedIn, and our Yelp. A little bit of technical difficulties here. So what you can expect during a consultation with Natasha and I, and this is super amazing because again, we're going to be reaching out to you guys, and we leave the line open for you guys to reach out to us. So we're going to be going over the why, how, when, what, where, and who, right? So we're going to be going over your goals, right? What are your goals as potential investors, right? How can we meet those goals? We're going to be going through all the options. We're really going to be going through time frame. We're going to set your criteria, identify the markets to meet that criteria, and then we're going to introduce you to everyone who's going to take you to the finish line, right? An advisor like myself, a boots on the ground agent like Natasha. We're going to be getting you in touch with all the lenders. We're going to introduce you to the property managers. It's a really one-stop shop experience, right? So that's what you can expect out of a consultation with us. And yeah, this is our contact info. It has been very, very nice to have everybody on today. This is such an exciting topic. I am so happy every time I come to Tennessee. It is a great time. It's a beautiful city. And I've purchased some property in the state of California, in which I currently reside. I have a property in Texas. My next investment property will definitely be with the help of Natasha in Clarksville. I know we kind of passed time here, 10 minutes. If you had asked a question that you would like to take a moment for us to go over, you can hang around. Otherwise, have an excellent evening. Again, our information is right here. Feel free to grab a picture or write it down, and we'll be happy to talk with you. I'm going to be going through a couple of the questions here. If you have not answered a question and you have some stuff going on, please feel free to sign off and have an excellent evening. Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Let's answer some questions.
Yeah, we're going to go through some questions here. Hi, Pablo. What is the max monthly cash flow what is the max monthly cash flow amount one can get with a property from you? Well, obviously, if you put all cash on a property, you're receiving the total rent amount, right? Minus some fixed expenses like taxes and insurance. So if you were to decide to, purchase a property all cash, you'd get a lot more cash flow. It's very case by case basis. And if we connect on a video call, we can kind of get to understand your circumstance fully, specific to you, and we'll be able to better answer that question. Hi, Brittany. How much do rents appreciate each year? So average in Clarksville, you have to factor in. So states like California have rent caps. You know, like for example, think about Long Beach because I have investment property there. And there's a certain percentage you can raise your rents every year. That's not necessarily the case in Clarksville. However, you don't want to raise so much that you're forcing your tenants to leave. You want to factor in the comparables around the area. You want to make sure that you are staying within market, because if you raise your tenants too much, they will absolutely vacate, and we see it all the time. We speak with you, and our property manager will consult with you about what an appropriate rent raise is. We do aim to raise every year just at a figure that is sustainable, because you don't want to be losing your tenants. You want to keep them, especially if they're good tenants. But typically, I'd say, Natasha, what do you think? Maybe a $70 to $80 rent increase, like a good one in Clarksville. Yeah, you know, and that makes a big difference. And it's very dependent on, you know, what's going on in the neighborhood around you, right? So, well, our property managers are fantastic at giving you all the information on the legal on that, on what you're legally allowed to rent and what the comps will support, right?
Yeah.
Hi, Rick. Thank you for asking your question. Not sure you mentioned it, but what is the historical projected annual population growth rate in Clarksville? Natasha, did we cover that? I recently spoke with somebody about the Texas national projected population growth. Do we have that in Clarksville or Tennessee?
We did not touch on that, no.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rick, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I'll make sure I write this down and get you the exact figure. We'll speak with our property managers. They likely have that information. What I can guarantee you is that it will grow over a 10, 15-year period. There's a lot of growth there. Companies are moving there. But historically and future growth projected, we'll make sure we kind of discuss that in our consult. Thank you. What about multi-units? So if you're interested in investing in multi-units, we certainly can put together a search for you. Clarksville, when driving around, you really don't see a lot of multifamily. It exists, but it's not like, you know, California or Texas or even Florida where you're seeing a lot of multi-units. It really is a lot of single family. It exists. They're kind of older, run down. Builders aren't really building duplexes, triplexes. And I'll tell you what, in the state of Tennessee, I remember being in a meeting with a builder in Nashville saying, you know, if we build duplexes, triplexes, they fly off the walls. So people are really interested. They're not so present here. And I'm not sure why, but we are seeing a lot of single families. When we speak in a consult, I'll kind of show you some areas that might pertain a little bit better to some multi-units. Hi, Pablo, 20% down. We spoke about this just briefly. It's an option, but what we would need to do is connect you to a lender, and the lender would have better information on if this would be available for you. Typically, you tend to be upside down on your monthlies, so you're not receiving as much cash flow when you put 20% down. If you're okay with being a little negative and paying into the property month to month, I'm sure they're, you know, based on what you qualify for, you could work something like that out, but it's very case by case, right? Hi, James. What is included in HOA fee? Is there a community pool, gym, rec? I don't think there's amenities on these Emma-Deans, right? Or
The only thing is trash, and of course, they check on lawns. They make sure you don't park on streets. They keep the neighborhood pretty nice and clean. Yes.
Yeah.
Or anyway, the tenants do.
So in the ones that we showed, there's no real big communal features like pools and such.
And that's really what out here. Yeah.
Excuse me. Gerald, thank you. I saw you put in a lot of questions and we'll get to Everett. Putting properties in LLC in Tennessee, that's something that we'll go through as an advisor in an advisor consult. You know, pros and cons, right? And we'll talk about that in detail if you'd like in a personal in a conversation. So please feel free to reach out to me. I can help answer that question. Rental cap in the HOA? No, we don't have caps in the HOA. It would be pretty standard with what the property manager recommends. And obviously your say is the final say. We'll give you what you're legally allowed to do. And at the end of the day, the decision is yours. We will just provide our professional recommendations.
So asking about neighborhoods, I know I have worked with an investor that bought, sorry, Tasso, in like Texas, and for that HOA or that particular neighborhood, they had rental caps, like 20% of the neighborhood could rent. That does not apply here, especially in these two neighborhoods that we shared today.
Yeah. Thank you, Shweta. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. Thank you, Pam. We went over your question regarding the fencing. Kind of rent increases are you factoring in when determining? Hi, Rick. Your question was very good. Thank you for asking. What kind of rent increases are you factoring in when determining the 15-year projections? Just a standard rental increase rate. I believe, like I mentioned, it's about 10% in Clarksville to account for that figure. If we're 1850, no, it's a little bit less, 5 to 10% on those projected increase rates. So we can kind of go through a specific property and discuss what that projected 15-year rate looks like, right? Shweta, thank you so much. School district, we went over, they're kind of case by case. Natasha touched on a couple of them. Thank you, Pam, for asking your questions. Thank you, Mark. Weather related, we discussed that a little bit. Pam, another great question you asked was 8% plus leasing fee for 18 months. I'm not really understanding that question. Our management fee is 9% of 1 month's rent, and the leasing fee is 15% of 1 month's rent. Excuse me, 50% of 1 month's rent is the leasing fee, right?
Just a one time.
Landscaping, we discussed that, the 20% down. Are there HOA fees in these Marshall Reddick communities? Thank you so much for asking, Echo. The leasing fee is broken down by pro forma, so I think we saw $28 and $30 in these, right? Hi, Pablo. I think you might have asked this very early on. How much does a property rent for? We went through those one by one. And here's another one by Pablo. HOA covers roof here? No. Roof would be under a builder warranty for a certain amount of time. After that, you would be fully responsible for the roof. So this is not an HOA. The HOA is in no way incorporated with the internal or the roof or any of the fixtures of your property. It's more of the communal streets and sidewalks. So in this case, no, they would not cover the roof. How is the Oak Grove, Kentucky area doing? Kentucky is beautiful. It's a great state. We're not seeing returns quite like this. Lower price points, but just different opportunities, and we can talk about it, Noreen, in a consult. But you know, just different situations, much lower price points. We would absolutely kind of encourage you buying in a market like Clarksville because of the better incentives. However, if it's a low entry point you're looking for, we're able to find you properties in Oak Grove. They might not look as competitive. And that's it. That's our last question. So thank you everybody so much. We had great questions, and for everyone who stuck around to go through the questions, we thank you again so much. Our information is right here on this page, so please feel free to reach out to us, and have an excellent night.
Yes, have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.